I'm Neuroslickum23, joining me for Edge of Extinction, Episode 4. The morning after the party to officially welcome you into the group, you wake late. Everyone else is already up, going about their normal routines. Watching them work their mundane day-to-day tasks, you realize you feel a sense of foreboding. Things are too simple here, too neat, too easy, too fragile. The world is a dangerous place, life is a struggle, and protecting what the group has built will require constant vigilance. That's why you readily agree when Joseph asks if you're interested in a turn on guard duty later tonight. When everyone else goes to bed, you bundle up and head out with Shadow to stand guard under a dark, moonless sky. With a flashlight in one hand and a rifle slung over your shoulder, you circle the church at a slow, steady pace. On one of your circuits, you hear the church door open. Directing the beam of your flashlight at the sound, you're surprised to see Anna. She also has a rifle slung over her shoulder, and she's carrying her skis. Keeping us safe from the imaginary dangers of an empty world. Just doing my part. Everybody has to chip in. If that means standing out here in the cold half the night, so be it. It could be worse. At least it isn't snowing. And the pauses briefly, as if gathering her courage, then abruptly changes topics. I must apologize for the party. I know Pavel and I made you uncomfortable by arguing in front of you. Not a big deal. You had too much to drink. It happens. We've all been there. Anna smiles, clearly relieved at your understanding. She hesitates and then lets out a weary sigh before continuing. I don't normally drink, but things with Pavel have been difficult lately. My husband has some unusual beliefs. He never used to be religious. The collapse changed that. Billions died, and we might be the only married couple that survived. Pavel doesn't think that's coincidence. He believes it is a sign. Thinks our survival is proof of God's existence and his plans for us. It's not so unusual. He wouldn't be the first person who turned to religion in times of trial. It's not just a belief in God's existence that I could understand. He's taken it to the extreme. Pavel believes we have been chosen as the next Adam and Eve. He actually thinks God wants us to repopulate the earth. I mean, that's not really possible. You need a lot more than just one couple to keep the human race alive. He believes we will eventually find the other survivors, other couples with children. But in his mind, if we don't do our part, if we don't have children of our own, then we've betrayed our divine purpose. We never spoke of children before the collapse. I was focused on my training, so was Pavel. Training for the Olympics, Joseph mentioned that. I was a favorite to win the gold at the next biathlon. Pavel competed himself a few years ago. Though he didn't win a medal afterward, he became a coach. It's how we met. And now you're here. You met, you married, and then the world ended. Right, the old, familiar story. She manages to smirk. Sometimes I think that if he wasn't my old coach, we wouldn't have even gotten married. Maybe that's why he's so fixated on child. Maybe he thinks a shared purpose will bring us closer together again. You don't agree? Sounds like you have your doubts. I don't know if I want children. Not right now. Maybe not ever, and maybe not with him. I'm starting to think Pavel and I shouldn't even be together anymore. Anna stops, suddenly self-conscious. She gives another nervous laugh. I came here to apologize for the drama last night, and then instead I dump all my problems on you. This has been awkward. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's been a little awkward, but I'm glad you told me. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here for you. Thank you. I might take you up on that. It felt good to confide in someone. Anna gives a heavy sigh before continuing. Obviously, my husband and I have some things to work out. I'm sorry I dragged you into it. She looked ready to say more. Behind her, the church door swings open and Marco comes out. He smiles and nods by way of greeting. Looks like your turn on watch is over. I'll let you get to bed. She sets her skis down and steps into the bindings. You going somewhere? Sometimes I like to go skiing at night. It's a rush whisking along the dark. It helps clear my head. Isn't that dangerous? That's why I bring the rifle. You're welcome to join me if you're not too tired from standing watch or frozen stiff from the cold. I'd love to ski with an Olympian. I think I'll just go to bed. I appreciate the offer, but I think I need the rest. Suit yourself. She digs her poles in the snow and pushes off, accelerating quickly with long, powerful strides before vanishing into the gloom. Marco nods as you go back inside and settle down for the night. The next morning, you wake to a series of heavy thumps and bangs. Falling from your tent, you see Joseph and Luis have dismantled the massive pipe organ that sits at the front of the cathedral. Blurry-eyed, you wander over, and neither man notices your approach, their attention focused entirely on the pieces spread out around the floor. What are you doing? You seem fascinated by whatever it is you're working on. Thanks also for waking me. Ah, good morning. And you're right, this pipe organ has become an obsession for us. Lewis said he'd teach me how to play, but it isn't working. The reservoir is damaged. Some of us had the night watch. Rick. What's a reservoir? Can you fix it? It's just an organ. What's a reservoir? I don't know much about how the pipe organs work. They're fascinating instruments. A blower pumps air into the reservoir, which controls the air pressure. From the reservoir, air passes in the wind chest, and the organist uses the keyboard and pedals to open or close the individual pipes and make music. I came to perform here before the collapse. The music was glorious. But if the reservoir is damaged, then none of it works. What's wrong with it? Why isn't the reservoir working? After the collapse, the power and heat went out. I think it's frozen, cracked. We tried to patch it, but it's too damaged. We'd have to find a replacement. Unfortunately, they're hard to find, but working on the organ gives us something to pass the time. Lewis says something in French as he crouches over the pieces spread out on the floor. Joseph excuses himself to go check on his friend. With your stomach rumbling, you decide to see Hildy about some breakfast. As you start your meal, Grace joins you. Hildy brings her bowl of porridge and takes a few hesitant spoonfuls before pushing it away. Damn patch messed up my depth perception. Feels like I'm gonna jam that spoon into my one good eye if I'm not careful. You need to eat. You have to keep your strength up. Do you want someone to help feed you? Really? You're gonna treat me like a child now? She glares at you, but you don't look away. Then she sighs and pulls the bowl back and resumes eating. You dine together without speaking. Once you're both done, you decide to break the silence. What's the plan here? Well, first thing is cleaning up these dishes. That's not what I meant. I'm talking about the big picture for the group. What comes next? To be honest, we haven't really discussed the future. Not in any real sense. We've only been here a few weeks. Priority was making the church into a sanctuary. Somewhere we'd feel safe and secure. We needed somewhere we could recover from the horrors of the collapse. We needed stability. We found comfort in our routines and roles. That makes sense. After everything that's happened, I guess that's the most important thing about finding some sense of normalcy again. Eventually, we'll have to move on. If nothing else, the food supplies in Tromsted will run out, but I think we can last the winter at least. I understand people are already getting restless. I know they need some kind of goal or purpose. Is that why Joseph and Luis are taking the pipe organ apart? Probably. At some point, we'll have to figure all this out, but for now, I think we should focus on preserving what we already have. For example, we need to make a supply run this afternoon. We're running low on painkillers and antibiotics. I have a feeling I'm going to need plenty of both over the next few weeks. Might be a good idea to try and get some prenatal vitamins for Mari, too. David and Luis are up on the schedule. I think you should go with them. David speaks both English and French. He can coordinate between the three of you. When do we leave? It gets dark early. We should head out soon. I agree. Finish your breakfast and I'll let David and Luis know to get ready. Sky is cloudy and gray as you head across the bridge to Tromstoya Island. David walks ahead of you, dragging the supply shed behind him. A shadow trots along happily beside you, while Lewis springs up the rear, whistling softly to himself. Block by block, you search homes, businesses, slowly accumulating a treasure trove of useful items. By the time the light is fading, the sled is almost overflowing with supplies, food, medicine, batteries. Tired but satisfied, you start back, taking turns dragging the heavy, laden sled behind you. You're still a mile from the bridge when the wind picks up and the temperature drops. You recognize the unmistakable signs of a blizzard. Storm is coming fast. So what's the plan? We have to abandon the sled. We need to find shelter. We'll never make it back in time. We need to find somewhere to ride this out. These storms can last for days. Huddling inside an abandoned building won't help us. It means we freeze to death more slowly. You realize he's right, and you nod your agreement. The three of you set off with renewed urgency. Wind picks up, Shadow whines anxiously. Even she doesn't want to be out in the weather like this. Between the cold and fatigue, all your energy is focused on putting one foot in front of the other. You and Shadow have moved to the front, blazing a trail for the others. The swirling snow is so thick you can barely see 20 feet. A few hundred meters across the bridge to mainland, David tugs at your arm. He shouts to be heard above the howling wind. We're lost, Luis! With dawning horror, you realize the third member of the team has fallen so far behind you can't see him or the sled he was towing. You and David turn around and head back. You still haven't found Lewis by the time you reach the end of the bridge. This is hopeless. We'll never find him. We have to turn back. We can find him. Don't give up on him yet. He has to be close. David hesitates and then nods his agreement. Fine. We keep looking, but both of us. Leaving the bridge behind, you continue your search. After 10 minutes, there's no sign of Lewis. You can feel the exhaustion in your limbs now, but at least your high-end coat and boots keep you warm despite the falling temperature. He's not here. We'll die if we keep searching. We have to get back to the church. You're right. Being out here and freezing to death won't help him. You had to abandon Lewis to the blizzard. Two of you turn and head back towards the bridge. Shadow hesitates momentarily and then falls in a step beside you. Okay, how did a guy with a big, giant sled escape? Seriously. Nearly white-out conditions by the time you reach the cathedral. You're shivering uncontrollably from the cold, a pure sign of hypothermia. You stumble in the courtyard, the church doors open, and Anna and Pavel rush out. Where's Lewis? David shakes his head. The effort causes him to lose balance, and he tumbles into the snow. Pavel scoops him up and carries him inside. Leaning on Anna for support, you stagger in behind him. The warmth inside the church hits you like a hammer, and you collapse from exhaustion. You wake up inside your tent, wrapped tight in a sleeping bag with Shadow snuggled up against you. Crawling out of your tent, you find Anna sitting nearby, reading a book. She sets it aside when she sees you. Good morning. Good afternoon, actually. You've been asleep since you got back yesterday. How are you feeling? How's David doing? David okay? He's going to make it. He was touch and go for a bit, for both of you. What about Lewis? He didn't make it. Margot and Sophia went out after the blizzard passed and found his body buried in the snow. We didn't have a choice. We tried to look for him, we did, but the storm was too strong. I know that. It was just a terrible accident. I think we all understand that. Even Joseph. He's struggling with it, but I know he doesn't blame anyone. He came by to check on you earlier, but you were still sleeping. It seems as if she is going to say something else, but she stops abruptly when she notices Pavel approaching. You look well enough, John. Despite the innocuous greeting, there's something aggressive in his tone, confrontational. Something wrong? A young man is dead. I see that's very wrong. I don't like your tone. Are you accusing me of something? Pavel shrugs, Anna shakes her head with an angry sigh, clearly annoyed by her husband. If you've got something to say to me, then say it. It seems like we have nothing but bad luck since you showed up. First you arrived and then I ended up cornered by wolves. You can't blame John for that. Even so, as a first of pattern, the polar bear attack and Alois is dead. All accidents, but all had one thing in common, you, the newcomer. Well, the world is dangerous. How many people died in the collapse? How many since? Bad things happen, that's just a fact. Science cannot explain everything. Some people have dark cloud over them. In Russia we call it Don the Glass, the evil eye. Enough, you're being an idiot, Pavel. Anna spins on her heel and stomps away. Pavel gives you a long, hard stare before turning and going after his wife, speaking quickly in Russian. Left alone, you eat a small meal and consider what effect Lewis's death will have on the group. You know he was a musician, the others seemed to like him, and Joseph was clearly closer to him than anyone else. After finishing your late breakfast, you're not surprised to find Joseph near the cathedral's still dismantled pipe organ, but he's not alone. Grace is talking with him. You can't hear what they're saying, but Joseph is clearly agitated. After a few moments, Joseph nods, and Grace pats him on the back and leaves. She nods at you, she goes by, and you return the gesture. Joseph sees you, and he forces a smile. Good to see you up and about, John. I was worried about you. My condolences about Lewis. I'm sorry about what happened to him. I know you two were close. Joseph nods, and the forced smile falls away from his face. At least we recovered his body. Maybe that will make things easier. We wrapped him in sheets and moved him to the basement. Once the ground thaws, we can bury him properly. It's so cold and dark down there. I went to see him this morning, but I couldn't bear to stay more than a few minutes. He looks down at the floor and gives a soft, truthful laugh. I saw so many people die in the collapse, friends, family. After a while, I just became numb to it all. But Lewis, for some reason, this is different. I'm not numb at all. It just feels like a knife in my stomach slowly twisting. He was special. I saw enough of him to know he brought a lot of joy to this group. You remember Lewis playing his guitar late in the night? When the group accepted you, it was Lewis who kindled the party's fire. His music gave us light, embodied our hope for the better future. I don't want to make him some kind of symbolic figure. He was just a person, but I loved him, and now he's gone. You wrap your arms around Joseph. At first he tenses, and then you feel his body relax as he leans into your embrace. He starts to cry, soft sobs that make his body quiver in your arms. You grip him tighter, letting the tears come. Eventually he stops crying, and he gently frees himself from your grasp. Thank you, I needed that. Just to feel the touch of another person, to remind me I'm still alive. He steps away from you, his attention focused on the scattered pieces of the pipe organ. I guess I should clean this mess up. Nobody left to play it now, even if we got it working. I'm sorry you never got to hear the pipe organ, John. It was really magnificent. Lewis had been talking about trying to find a working reservoir. He thought there might be one in the University Museum. You never went to check? The museum caught fire during the collapse. Maybe an accident, maybe started by someone gripped by fever. It's just a burned-out shell of a building now. Even if the reservoir survived, searching the scorched ruins wouldn't be easy. He begins to pick through the scattered pieces of the organ, clearly lost in the memories of his friend. Going to the museum to find another reservoir was just a silly dream Lewis and I had. One of those things you always talk about but never do. I'll help you clean this up. You don't have to put this organ back together by yourself. It'll be easier if we work together. Accept your help with only the slightest just nods. The two of you slowly reassemble the organ in an act of therapeutic labor. Though Joseph barely speaks, you sense he's glad to have you with him. Once you're done, you decide to give Joseph some time alone to mourn his friend. You head back to your tent to find David waiting there for you.
How's Joseph doing?
He'll be okay eventually. You should go see him. See for yourself. Go talk to him. I think he'd like that. David shakes his hand.
I can't do that. I'm probably the last person he wants to see. You and Chateau were out in front, but I was closer to Lewis. I should have noticed something was wrong. It's my fault he got lost. It's my fault he died out there.
Nobody's fault, man. This was just an accident. I don't blame you, and Joseph doesn't either.
I want to believe that, but how can I? I should have noticed he was missing. But I gave up the search. Maybe if we'd keep looking for him. I tried to tell myself if it was for the greater good, Lewis couldn't be saved, but so why risk more lives? But I think the truth is something else. I think I'm just a coward.
You're not a coward. We need to look out for each other, but we also have to look out for ourselves. That's the harsh reality of this world we live in.
It's not very comforting, even if you're right. It doesn't help. I'm going back to what happened, wishing I could change things.
I know the feeling. I keep replaying what happened over and over in my mind. Was there something else we could have done? But we can't change the past, and I'm not saying we forget Lewis, but we have to find a way to move past this. We both do. He doesn't say anything at first, and then he finally gives a slight nod.
You're right. We can't dwell on the past. Thank you, John.
He reaches out and gives you an awkward pat on the upper arm before heading off. Over the next few days, a sense of normalcy slowly returns to the group as they focus on day-to-day routine survival, but without Lewis's music and cheerful personality, an undeniable cloud hangs over the cathedral. You notice Grace and Joseph having several private talks, but neither seems willing to share the nature of their discussions. On the fourth day after the blizzard, however, after another chat with Joseph, Grace calls the entire group together for a meeting. As the others file into the church pews, you find yourself standing beside Joseph. He smiles politely, but his nervousness is obvious. Are you okay? You look troubled.
Do I? I'm sorry, John.
You don't have to apologize, I'm just concerned.
It's nothing to be concerned about, and it's not. I'm not in mourning, if that's what you're thinking. I know things have been hard on everyone in the past few days, but Grace has a plan to fix it.
Sounds like you have doubts. Grace pushing you into something you don't agree with?
No, not at all. It's just, well, I'd rather let her tell you.
I admire how you're looking out for Joseph, but I'm not cooking up some sinister plan. You turn around quickly, surprised to see Grace standing right behind you. She turns from you and Joseph and addresses the rest of the group. Thank you all for coming. I know Joseph and I have been acting strangely. I apologize for that. And this group is based on trust and mutual cooperation. We support each other. We care about each other. As she speaks, her words are softly translated by the others in the crowd for those who don't speak English. As a whole, we are much greater than the sum of our parts. Together we have built something here, a community worth protecting and preserving. Together we have found hope in a seemingly hopeless world. But Lewis's death has reminded us how fragile our group is. We can't go on like this. Subsisting day to day, scavenging for food and supplies. We need something more.
You and Joseph decided this. I thought we made decisions as a group.
Stay silent. Curious to hear what Grace has to say, you decide not to interject, but Joseph is quick to jump into her defense. Grace and I have a plan for the future. We want to share it with everyone, and then the group will decide what to do. Mollified, Pavel accepts Joseph's argument and nods for Grace to continue. The cathedral has been our haven, a place to restore our minds and spirits after the horrors of the collapse. We had to come to terms with the past before we could think about the future, but now we must move forward. Grace turns to Joseph. He steps forward and clears his throat. Spitzbergen is an island on the edge of the Arctic Ocean. On this island is something very special. A Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Inside the vault are preserved seeds of virtually every edible crop from around the world. Uncontaminated samples. I think I can use the samples to breed toxin-resistant plants. Joseph pauses, letting the implications of what he said sink in. Grace steps in to fill the silence. If we can get to the Svalbard Seed Vault, we can save humanity. Well, what's left of it. Her words hang in the air, a bold and stunning declaration, but one that gives you a spark of hope for the future. Neutral, trusted, disliked. You haven't given me a chance, Grace. David is neutral, liked, and Louis is dead. No, Louis, no! I'm surprised after speaking with Anna, like we're still neutral, but whatever. That being said, thank you all for watching. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Head down in the description below, links to social media, Discord, if you'd like to support me and my content. Also, make sure to hit that bell icon to receive notifications, and hey, consider hitting join as well to become part of the Locos crew. It'd be fantastic to have you. And without further ado, thank you all once again for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.